Good afternoon, everybody. It is 5:15 p.m. Sunday, July 20th, 2025. A couple dreams for you, then I'm going to try to recount best I can. One dream, I remember I was going through this ocean place as if I was I'm not sure how to describe it. It was I remember it's like I was playing a game, a side scroller, and there was this water I was moving through, and various fish, and I can do boosts, and there was this it was like a cavern, underwater cavern I was moving through, and near the bottom there was this black or purplish substance, and there was actually the section of it that was split in half, sort of, and the left side was moving up and down, or rather down and up, I should say. It would move down to create a sort of crevice that was clear of the stuff, and then it would move back up to close up. And there was this creature, this fish or whatever, that seemed to be moving with it, either causing the movement or simply moving with it to survive. I don't know. It was weird. Bending this material, if I swam through it directly, it would start to slowly degrade my health until I was no more. And I contemplated trying to time it and go through the crevice, and I think I tried and then respawned and then decided not to. It was weird. It was a weird sequence that there's tidbits of it that I can't describe. They're indescribable. But I remember at some point I got to the end and I came out of the water and it was no longer a 2D side scroller, and it was first person view, as if I was actually there, and there was someone there, this man who was I was talking with him, and he mentioned how I asked him if I could move on with my jacket on, and he said, he reminded me, right when I remembered, nothing floaty was allowed, and the reason I was asking if I can move on with it is because there was this I was in this small cavey area on this beach, and my next destination was the ocean, as if the watery cave was practice for something, or at least a sort of point A to point B scenario. Because when I was in the water, I wasn't human, I don't think. Maybe I was, I don't remember. But it was weird. And the plan was to go in the ocean. And this cave place was weird because it was it was open on two sides. It was it was on the corner of this cliff. And there's not singular, but there's two openings going like, let's say theoretically, one is going west. No. One was going south, and another cave entrance was going west, and they were like really close to each other. I remember I couldn't bring. He said I couldn't bring something else along, my phone maybe, along with my jacket. It was my jacket. It was the jacket that my grandma got me a long time ago. This like little like, it wasn't like a really thick jacket. It was one of those like thin, but still comfy jackets. I'll take a picture of it maybe later. I don't know. And I was trying to think to myself, okay, I gotta send this back home. I gotta send this back to my dad because I'm not coming back or something. And I was asking if it was possible or whatever. I was trying to think about it. And I kind of determined it wasn't really, kind of. And bit of a bummer. I don't remember what happened next, but I remember that sequence kind of reset for some reason. I was back at the beginning of the 2D section where I was underwater, and everything was like corrupted for some reason. There was like, it was spiky, and like there was no more fish, or if there were very few, and they're moving very slowly and sluggish. And it was dark, whereas before it was bright. And I remember I went back to the bottom, and that dark layer was like jagged, but it was no longer moving. There's no more flowing of whatever it was. It was solid almost. And I remember the camera, I moved the camera down, and I could see this like creature trapped in this little like gap. It was like a little rat, and I remember moving the camera to look at it, and move the camera to the right and down a little bit, and gaze top left while doing so, because there was this like moonlight coming through this jagged sort of like opening a distance away, like a tube almost, a passageway. And I was thinking to myself, like, it was like I was like lining up the camera so it was perfectly in line with the moon, the moonlight, or whatever. So I was gazing straight at the moon, and there was significance to that, and I don't remember why. And then at some point, either before or after that, I was like taking control of the mouse or rat or whatever. Not in that I was like puppeting it, but rather I was playing as the rat, you know, and like trying to crawl my way around through these jagged like thorns, basically, these like inky black thorns. And I don't remember what happened next. I don't remember if they escaped or not, but the dream shifted. I'm trying to think what happened next. Because there were different parts of the dream where I was like, I'm trying to remember, I don't remember. So I'm gonna move on. There's another dream. There's actually like two other dreams. One of them, I was like in space or something. It was weird. I remember it kind of like Outer Wilds almost, but different. I was in space on this like at this place, either on this asteroid or this station, and there's like, it was open space. For some reason we can breathe with it being open space, but there's also gravity. So maybe it's just nighttime wherever we were. But it was weird because like we could see everything, all of the planets, and stuff. Like, you know how like in Outer Wilds you can see the planets very clearly in the solar system, whereas in real life you wouldn't be able to see them as easily because they're actually pretty far away. It was like Outer Wilds, you know. It was me and a bunch of other humans, family, honestly. It was my cousin's birthday, and she was there, and a whole bunch of people were there. And I remember like just gazing out to like the space around me, and I could see a bunch of planets everywhere, and like these constellations, and even this adjacent like galaxy, or maybe it wasn't even a galaxy. Just there was this weird like flowy energy that was going between various planets. Like it was like an aurora, but like not. It was more. It was more there than an aurora, right? It was like this weird like bluish white energy that sneaked around a little bit in a very like graceful way, and I had this in my thought that I could travel on that to go to different places, different planets and asteroids and solar systems and easily, but I was like, I didn't want to because I was there for a party, so I was just thinking about it, and it was odd. I remember having a similar dream a long time ago, where I was part of this like the point of the dream, the point of view was like Stellaris, kind of. But like I'm not gonna describe it because it's been too long. I don't remember it very well, but it was similar to that dream a long time ago. The dream shifted at some point. I don't remember if that dream happened before or after the water dream, but this third dream I had more recently, I was in this like I was at this like I remembered at some point previously a monolith had been launched into space with a bunch of information about humans on it. And it was really big, right? It was a rocket. It was basically a rocket, kind of. But it was like rather, it had been sent up in a rocket, but it also had rocket capabilities. It had an AI built into it, and if it needed to, it could open up compartments in it and have rockets come out, or whatever, or shoot out propulsion, or whatever, to course correct as needed, or whatever. So in itself, it was basically a ship, essentially, but it was like a rocket, you know. But it looked like a giant black monolith with like golden writing on it, or just etching in it, or whatever. Maybe it wasn't golden writing; it was like carving into it, and I think it was made of a combination of metal. I think it was metal, but maybe it was stone. I don't know. It was black. It was like pitch black, not pitch black. It was like grayish black, and I remembered it had been launched at some point, but that was in memory. I was reminiscing about it because the point of the dream I was on this alien ship, and I was fighting my way through for some reason, and I remember I got my hands on a weapon, an upgrade from what I had, and I remember at some point I had the Needler from Halo, and I remember shooting my way through and killing some aliens with only a few shots of it, and then at some point I met up with this sir in this like army suit, this black sir, and I think he was like an associate, maybe the general. I don't know. I saved him, and we were running through, and I had this like weapon or this device where I could type on a little like body mounted computer that was like wrapped around my waist or whatever, and it would cause targets to die and like disintegrate. And I did that while we were going down this hallway, and they died, and we moved again, and there was then this door opened down the hall to open up the hallway more, because using the computer or an AI was helping me move through or whatever. And there was 2 children, and they were scared and they were screaming, and I'm like, oh no. And I paused. I paused for a minute and just thought to myself, like, my hands were over the console at my waist, and I was like, oh no. And I remember the scene like shifted, like it was like in a movie, like next scene just moves on the next scene. Like it faded the black and then faded back, and it was me and the general, the guy in the suit. We're in a segment of the hallway that detached from the hallway. It was floating in space, perfectly fine. Somehow we could breathe. I had a helmet on. I had a suit on, kind of reminiscent of the Helldivers kind of suit, but different. Like my face was more visible through the screen, the glass. And he didn't have anything, and yet we were both fine going through space, whatever. And the children were there too. The children were in a different section. It was as if the hallway was segmented, and it like broke off and was floating through space. And they were on one segment floating through space, and we were on another. And they were just like whimpering a little bit, just like crying and just standing there. And I guess the idea was I decided I would just leave fate to them, and because there's other aliens in the area, they'll see them and rescue them. It's fine. And so I spared them. And then I remember me and the other guy was like floating in our section, and I saw the monolith like stuck in this part of it was stuck in this like fleshy ball of like an asteroid, planet, moon thingy that we were on, that the ship was docked on. And I remember like pulling it out. It was big. This thing was like this, like, it would take like 30 or 40 people to wrap around it hand in hand. To like, if they were hugging it, for instance, it would take a lot of people. And somehow I was able to pull it out. Maybe I had like a jetpack in my suit or whatever. And I pulled it out and then aimed it toward Earth. And that's when I saw Earth. Earth was a mess. It was like reddish, brownish, like a dark reddish flesh covering the entirety of it. And it apparently didn't surprise me. And I aimed it at it, and then said, computer, prepare to thrusters, destination Earth. And I heard the computer back to me, destination Earth, prepare for launch, or whatever. And I remember I was just hugging it, and I don't know where the other guy went. He's just gone. But it launched a little bit, it caused some thrusters to appear from the back of the monolith, the top of it, because the bottom of the monolith was spiky. Like it came to a point, and the top of it was flat. And obviously I pulled it out from its pointy end, because the pointy end was embedded inside of the fleshy moon or whatever, or the rock or whatever. And it launched away from the ship with me on it. Not the ship. I wasn't on the ship. I was on the monolith, like gripping it, like hugging it. And I looked towards the ship I was going away from it, and it was like, it was in shambles. I knew it was in shambles, and then eventually, after a few like seconds, it started to explode and spin out of control. And then I was like, well, I guess everyone's dead anyways. Including those children, right? What was weird is that in the dream, the children looked human, but they clearly weren't human. I knew they weren't human. I knew they were like the aliens. Maybe they were like aliens that looked human because of a hologram to get me to spare them. But I knew they were still children, because I guess I knew that if an alien was visually altered, they still retain whatever age they are, which implies that the aliens were raising their own, some of them anyways, from child child age to adult age, perhaps to become spies on Earth, perhaps, who knows? Or maybe it was just, maybe the aliens were more humanoid than I thought. I don't know. I really don't know, but I knew they weren't Earth humans, whatever the case was. And I'm pretty sure what I saw was an illusion of sorts. But they still acted like children, and they didn't attack me. They were scared. Anyways, the monolith and I were barreling towards Earth. And the computer said something, and I said along the lines of, I know, I won't survive, or whatever. And I remember just, holding on to it, and at some point, the monolith slowed down, and I asked the computer what it was doing, and, I don't remember what it said, but I understood it was trying to save me by retaining some of the fuel, because the way the monolith had used the thrusters, right? The monolith was shaped like a multi-sided polygon cylinder, like a hexagon, but instead of with 8 sides, it was 10 sides, 9 sides. It was a lot of sides, and I was gripping, maybe it was a hexagon actually, but I was gripping one of the corners, kind of hugging it with my legs and arms, and the computer was slowing down. It used, the rockets would come out of the sides of the faces of the hexagon sides. It would open up compartments. Even it would open up through the etching. It doesn't matter. It's fine. It would just go back, and it would have these rockets come out, right? It resembled small little panels at the very top of it, folding up, and then rockets were there to slow it down. And there's rockets that started slowing the whole entire thing down. I'm like, what are you doing, computer? And basically, he was trying to save me by slowing down enough to where when he went into re-entry, it would be able to slow down a little further and then land on the planet, and then I would get off. And obviously, momentum would make it so impossible because I'd start falling. But the computer, she had caused these rings to form around my arms and legs and my entire body to kind of hold me in place towards the monolith, and held me on basically the surface of this monolith could be sectioned off at will. And she had cut off the part of that I was hugging into a section and put it on a rail, so that way when we started landing, or this momentum, and I started going downwards, it would move down a little bit, in relation to the stopping of the monolith, so I wouldn't be pulled around everywhere and break my bones. And it was interesting. It looked interesting. And then that way, when I was at the very top of the monolith, and finally it made contact with the ground, it had made contact hard enough to embed itself into it, I would slide all the way down slowly as the computer tried to slow me down, and then I would survive. Which happened, I think. But I don't remember if the dream went far enough to me actually seeing the result of that. But it was really weird. It was really, really, really weird. Because, I just remember those children. I remember the earth being fleshy. Apocalyptic. I remember the idea that, I knew humanity was doomed, but I wanted to send the monolith back home anyways. Maybe that was to leave a mark on the planet, so if anyone comes by there, they can see who we were, maybe. Or maybe I had it in my head that it would save the world. I don't know. I don't think it did. I don't think it was going to. A single monolith wasn't going to do anything. But it was weird. It was really weird. And I just want to share that with you. The ability to, be in open space without any protective gear was weird. And I had a suit on, certainly, but there was multiple times in the dream I didn't. And there was that water dream, which is weird. But the water dream, it had a sense of like, I'm not coming back, right? Like, irreversible change is what the water dream is about, right? Because I knew I'd go to the ocean proper and I would never come back. Not because I died, but because I would change. And it was like there was like a society underwater. So I don't exactly know what was going on, you know? Whatever. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my ramblings. This nonsense, my dreams are so weird sometimes, and I don't always make sense of them. It's hard to make sense of them sometimes. But, I gotta get up. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you later, I guess. Bye. Bye-bye.